Hello there. It's the time of year to start thinking about lovely, lovely Christmas journals. And this last weekend, I asked my Instagram friends what cover they thought I should pick for my personal journal because I absolutely could not choose. Most of you like the green cover. I really like this tattered book cover and had plans to fix the tears with some vintage Christmas wrap. And at some point, I'm sure I will still make that cover into a journal to keep or sell. But for this year, a difficult year for my family and so many others, this message of make your own Merry Christmas was very dear to my heart. Because this is a thinner book and I will be needing a much thicker spine, the first thing I need to do is to remove the front and back covers. An X-Acto knife works well, but I didn't want to have one handy, so I just used these sharp tip cutter bee scissors. Right where the cover bends is the spot you want to cut. This is an older book, and so it comes apart fairly easily. I know it can be hard to do this to a perfectly good book. Just think you're giving it a second life. I do make sure I buy a second copy of old books like this to ease my conscience. One for me, one for posterity. Don't worry if you have jagged edges. These are all going to get covered up nicely. So now we have our front and back covers, the spine and the inside pages, which I will put aside to use in a later project. Now I buy these chipboard sheets in bulk to use in my journals and packaging, but any thin cardboard will work. I'm not a fan of rulers and measurements, so if you are, then my tutorials may drive you a bit crazy, but I just make notches, little notches with my scissors like this. And then I line that notch up with my paper trimmer. And this is going to be the base or the spine. And I'm using my scissors to make a little notch. And then I'm going to use my scoring tool to make the flaps. I wanted a pretty thick journal for Christmas, but you can determine how big you'd like yours to be. Once you have scored and folded both flaps, you can cut off the excess. I usually just eyeball it, but if you need to measure, then by all means do. Now that we have our spine, it's time to make it pretty. I have some vintage wrapping paper that I'm going to use, but you could use scrapbook paper, newer gift wrap, or even some thin fabric if you'd like. Trim it so that you have a little bit of edge around the sides. I use PVC book glue. I like the control and coverage I get with a paintbrush. I'm getting to the end of my bottle, so my glue is a little clumpy. Fold over your edges. There we go. A prettily covered spine for your journal. Now I'm going to set this aside for now and start working on my journal pages. I've culled this massive pile from my collection, trying to get a good mix, a good variety of papers and ephemera, like this pink and red candy bag I got from one of the sellers on Instagram. If you have a bag, you can fold it. They make nice little pockets, and you can cut off the bottom of the bag and make a pocket on that side too. Now Now, when I'm folding my papers, I think how I want them to show. And so I won't always fold them symmetrically, and that's okay. That adds interest. I love Mickey's Christmas Carol. I remember watching it with my mom when I was 4 years old. So I have a few pages from that book. I saved this 45 cover to use as a pocket. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. You know it's a classic. I've got another place to stash stuff now, lists, receipts, or whatever. I'll probably cover up Elmo and Patsy there. Trim off the bottom so I can have just one more little place to tuck small items. Some pretty glassine paper. Now I could trim this to size, but I think instead I'm just going to fold it and then fold it again. It just helps to have different sizes, different textures, and sometimes I'm just too lazy to cut it to size. Numbered ledger paper is so great for Christmas journals. I folded this one so that the numbers 1 through 25 were showing, and I plan to use it to keep track of one small Christmas thing we plan to do each day, cookies or a movie or a craft. It's great for keeping track of gifts you're buying and for whom as well. Once I have all my papers folded, I need to check to see that they fit nicely in the spine. You can add more or less as needed. I wanted to have plenty of paper, but also give myself room to grow. With this style of journal, you can always add, rearrange, or take out pages as needed. Looks like I need to trim the edge of these right there. Once you're happy with the amount of pages you have, you can start organizing your papers into signatures. Instead of a hand-sewn binding, I use these grommets on the top and bottom. I did not film the process for placing these grommets or eyelets. It's pretty straightforward, and there's other tutorials you can watch for that if you need to, but you can find the kit I used on my Paper Pippi Amazon page that is linked in my Instagram bio. I use an elastic cord to tie up my 4 signatures to the spine. This way I can untie them later and shuffle them around however I want. Now to add some more of that PVC book glue to the outside flaps of the spine. Once it's in place, I use regular old chip clips you can find at the dollar store to hold things in place while they dry. 24 hours drying time is recommended, but honestly, I never wait more than 30 minutes because I'm impatient. Now we're ready to make the outer spine. Cut your chipboard or cardboard using the same process we use for the inner spine. Make sure it fits snugly, but not too tight. I've selected some vintage ribbon and a piece of Pioneer Woman ribbon, and I'm going to adhere it using Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix adhesive. Tucking and gluing any excess on the reverse side. Now for the secret. The outer spine is actually going to be attached using Velcro on the outer flaps. Line up and fasten the 2 cut strips of Velcro. And use your Fabri-Fix to adhere it to the inside flaps of your outer spine. Use the same adhesive to secure it to the cover. Use clips to hold it in place. And this time you really want to let it dry completely before you attempt to separate the Velcro. Now you have a seamless, no-sew journal binding. You can unhook the secret binding, untie your cords, add, rearrange, and take out pages with ease.